"You look tired, like my husband before he left." That's what she said to me through the cafe window, and I swear my coffee went cold in my hands. I'm a CEO who's used to boardrooms going silent when I speak. But this young widow I'd never met saw straight through me in 5 seconds. I didn't even know she was a widow yet, and somehow she had just described me better than anyone on my payroll ever had. In that moment, I had to ask myself a question I still wrestle with. Was I wrong for letting a stranger change the course of my life just because she reminded me of everything I was running from? A few weeks before that, my life was a blur of glass offices, late-night emails, and the constant pressure to perform. I had built my company from nothing, and from the outside it looked like I had everything: money, influence, respect. But inside I was exhausted in a way sleep couldn't fix. My marriage had quietly collapsed under the weight of my ambition. And when my wife finally left, there was no screaming, no drama, just a suitcase by the door and a calm, defeated goodbye that hurt more than any fight ever could. After that, I started going to this small cafe every morning, sitting by the window like a ghost watching normal people live normal lives. That's where I first noticed her. She always sat at the same table, holding a cup of tea she barely touched, staring out at the street like she was waiting for someone who was never coming. She couldn't have been older than 30. There was something heavy in the way she carried herself, like she was tired of being strong. We exchanged polite nods for days, then weeks never speaking, just sharing this silent understanding of loneliness. I told myself it was nothing, just two strangers killing time. But then came the morning she finally spoke. She glanced at me, smiled softly, and said that line, "You look tired, like my husband before he left." I laughed awkwardly and asked what she meant. And that's when she told me. Her husband had worked himself into the ground trying to provide for them. One day he walked out the door promising he'd be back early, and he never was. An accident. Gone just like that. She said it so calmly it scared me. I asked her why she said it to me, and she shrugged and said, "Because you have the same eyes. Like you're already gone." We started talking after that. Every morning turned into conversations about life, regrets, and the quiet fears we never shared with anyone else. She told me about loving someone so much it physically hurt. And I told her about losing myself chasing success. I wasn't even sure I wanted anymore. There was no flirting at first, just honesty. Raw, uncomfortable honesty. And somehow, that made me feel more alive than any deal I'd closed in years. As weeks passed, people around me started noticing changes. I was leaving the office earlier, smiling more, actually listening. My board wasn't thrilled. My ex-wife even commented that I seemed different, like the man she'd fallen in love with before ambition swallowed me whole. But with every step closer to feeling human again, I felt guilt creeping in. Was I using this widow's pain to heal my own? Was I crossing an invisible line just by finding comfort in her presence? So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause for a second and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you walk away to avoid complicating things? Or would you lean into something that felt real for the first time in years? One morning, she didn't show up. Her table was empty, her tea untouched. The next day, same thing. By the third day, I realized how much she'd become part of my routine, part of my stability. I asked the barista about her, and he told me she'd moved. No goodbye, no note. I felt stupid for how deeply it hit me, but it did. A week later, I found an envelope waiting for me at the cafe. Inside was a letter. She wrote that she could feel herself starting to live in our conversations instead of moving forward, and she didn't want either of us to stay stuck in grief. She thanked me for reminding her she was still alive, and she hoped I'd remember the same. That letter broke me. I went home, sat in my empty apartment, and for the first time in years, I cried without caring how it looked. The next morning, I resigned as CEO, not because I hated my company, but because I finally understood that success means nothing if you're too tired to feel it. Months later, I rebuilt my life slower, quieter, more intentionally. I never saw her again. But sometimes I catch my reflection in a window and remember her words.